Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fall of the Black family structure. While racism is a social issue that's very prevalent in today's society, one may not have thought about why there is such a deep rooted passion against racism by those at risk in the Black community. How the Black race encounters struggle, how that struggle began, and the behaviors and thoughts that this struggle has led us to is obviously an issue that affects many people in our society. Many of the people who I've grown up around live in poverty and have no clue how they really fell into it or how they can even get out of it. And this frustration, which comes from seeing resources and opportunities that they don't have easy access to like some others, causes people in the Black community to live what we call on edge. At the slightest notation that we are again being put into an unfair circumstance, the unrecognized cultural trauma causes some of us to display behaviors that are not so understandable to those in society. My hope is to bring an alternate perspective and understanding of this widespread debate that has grown so much over the years. Carney points out that this well-known debate represents a larger struggle for power over the discourse on race. And to me, this larger struggle of power goes beyond the unfair treatment of Blacks or the police brutality faced by Blacks that society likes to focus on. While the Black community struggles to overcome the confinement to poverty, struggles to overcome health disparities, struggles to overcome the lack of resources and the lack of opportunities, and the lack of skill in our interpersonal and environmental coping, there's a more important issue that puts our community at risk and needs to be faced. What really happened to the structure of Black families, and how is this impacting our lives today? Over the decades, the number of single-parent homes in the Black community has steadily risen. While 75% of white children live with two married parents in 2010, only 35% of Black children resided with their married parents. That means 66% of African American children live within single-parent households. Looking forward 10 years later in 2020, the Federal Interagency Forum on Child and Family Statistics reported that this percentage only decreased by 4% for Black families. So there hasn't been a dramatic decrease in the number of Black children being raised in single-family female households. As you can see, Black children simply have a significantly lesser chance of being raised in a two-parent household than do white children. Now, let's take a deeper look at how Black family structures have played out over time. Looking back, and back in the day, major changes have taken place in the composition of Black families over the last several decades. In the 1950s, 78% of Black families were composed of couples compared to the 88% of white families. As you can see, there wasn't much of a difference in family structures compared to white couples back then. Lemons and Johnson further documented that as early as the Emancipation through the late 1960s, the majority of African Americans upheld the custom of marriage, and families were primarily nuclear in structure, which means that they consisted of parents and their children being in one household. Over time, you see this slowly decreasing. If you're here, you're obviously wondering, what changed? How did our Black family structure fall? Well, this nuclear family structure within the Black community was due to Black men occupying a large portion of the country's high-paying, blue-collar manufacturing jobs during the U.S. Industrial Revolution, which enabled them to provide a sense of financial stability for their families as the head caregiver. Look at our hardworking Black men on the left putting in that good old work ethic. Now, how this stability was stripped away from Black families goes back to the onset of deindustrialization and globalization and the shift toward a more service-oriented economy. which made it difficult for Black men to adapt, given their relatively low level of educational attainment and lack of exposure to formal education. This cultivated a new workforce of highly educated members, so society began to have little use for less educated Black men. This deindustrialization of the economy led to the onset of joblessness, which pushed men towards mental strain. This mental strain caused a rise in the use of drugs, which from a mental perspective was to try and cope with reality, and it pushed them towards committing crimes to be able to care for their families. This led to the mass incarceration of Black men and the need for women to step up as head of household, which further pushed the need to depend on the government instead of a husband for the care of their families. Hopefully, you see where this is headed. The government never stopping to take the time to address this crisis in an effective way before it had an impact on future generations created a cycle of families growing up in households where the father has become absent and the mother is left often struggling to care for her family due to not having a male counterpart to help carry the weight of the family like she once had. Now, the lack of leaders in the leadership structure of the government not taking the time to address this issue is greatly impacting our population. The woman who at one point used to have her husband to depend on now is faced with the lack of time and job opportunities due to caring for children on her own and higher education not being easily accessible. If you haven't caught on by now, this leads to wage deprivation and continued cycles of generations deprived of income and opportunity equality. Being able to surpass the earlier series of unfortunate events is what's continued to hold Black families back from having equal access to resources that will place them in the position to climb up the ladder of wealth, which again results in continued generations of single-parent households stricken to poverty. I know I keep saying this, but I need y'all to understand how our families are falling into poverty so that you can understand how it relates to your relationships. Gentlemen pointed out that vulnerable populations are typically overwhelmed by oppressive lives, circumstances, and events that they have become powerless to control. The problems that our population face are often hard to control because they are chronic and persistent. The life event of being born Black in the United States simply creates a trajectory with a profound impact on education, employment, housing, health, and family life. Now, you do have some who may argue against this statement, feeling that some Black people just don't make the effort to obtain a better life. While there are some people who astonishingly do manage deeply adverse situations as survivors and not victims, Gentleman reminds us that when some people find themselves in distressing life circumstances, they deal with stressful or traumatic life events in such a way that they become helpless, hopeless victims that live on the margin struggling for day-to-day survival. The way that people adapt and function socially reflects the interplay and degree of agreement and compatibility between our body, mind, and environment. And if one's congruence and compatibility is a poor fit, it will limit their realization of their potential. How people come to perceive their constitutional and environmental resources and limitations, as well as their personal attributions and social constructions, have an intense impact on their potential as well. So, to address the thought that reflects, if some of the people in the Black community can endure through all of the trauma faced by Black families, then all of them can. I think it will be helpful to understand the variations in mental limitations before passing this judgment. Simply put, two people experiencing similar constitutional and environmental attributes may perceive their personal and environmental resources quite differently, which would consequently cause them to function at different levels. There are many theoretical explanations that regard the Black family's interactions as psychologically abnormal or unhealthy. But when one judges from the outside, resourceful survival adaptations developed by our Black families are missed. These survival adaptations that we've developed include being comprised of several households, having multiple parenting and interfamiliar consensual adoptions, being child-centered, having a close network of relationships between families that are not necessarily related by blood, and having flexible and interchangeable role definitions in performance. All of these adaptations provide the kinds of conditions that nurture the development of the protective factors that has helped us to promote resilience in the face of poverty, racism, and oppression. So, there is definitely willpower within our community. It's just a lack of knowledge and resources on how to use that willpower in a more excelling way. The family structure and living arrangement of those in Black communities is a worsening economic trend, being as though the children in our communities simply have a significantly lesser chance of being raised in a two-parent household than do white children. And this vulnerability alone is a big risk to the population ever having a chance to live a life such as lived by other thriving populations. Addressing this decline in our Black family structure, which has contributed to cycles of poverty, opens one up to a part of history that will provide answers to Black families, as well as bring awareness to society as a whole. Now, as a leader in the field, in your agent of change, I believe that this issue could be better addressed by advocating for the rise of Black family structures by making you aware of how you have subconsciously come to find yourself in some of the positions you are in and helping you to restructure the way you think of and approach your relationships. I believe that this will be an effective way of approaching the situation due to it promoting healthier communication and interpersonal patterns within the community, which will in turn create stronger family bonds. One by one, this will affect the Black community as a whole. And guess what? More Black love is more Black wealth. So, with that being said, hello everyone. My name is Shaniqua Monet Davis, aka Lexani Love, and I am a 31-year-old mother of 4 children who's kicked down all of society's expectations of what a teen mom's life would end up looking like. I broke through the chains of sexual abuse in many forms, domestic violence, homelessness, depression, low self-esteem, toxic relationships, you name it. I've mastered it and I got that education that many doubted I would get, and I'm coming to be the most effective agent of change in the world. I'm on a mission to bring heaven to earth. Listen, I'm doing this for the culture, okay? I've worked in the mental health field for over 7 years. Obtaining my undergrad from UNCC and my master's from Capella University allowed me to expand my knowledge on how the pressures we face on a daily basis affects our mental health, which in turn affects our relationships. Relationships and child and family bonds has always been my area of expertise. My empathetic, insightful, and unprejudiced personality, followed by my you would love him or her too if you knew their story, approach to restoration in this area, has allowed me to treat many issues of emotional trauma. A key component to any relationship is the ability to be self-aware enough to understand how your beliefs have shaped your life and how they may be shaping the way you see other people's lives. Simply put, having the ability to see things from a different perspective than yours is important. The belief that 1 Corinthians 13 verses 4 through 8 is often overlooked or misunderstood plays a huge role in my life. And as your agent of change, I am determined to heal our entire culture from the cycles of broken relationships that we see so very often in our community. If you find it difficult to stay in relationships but desire a strong family bond, you've met the right person. Together, we will work on strategies that will lead to a more lasting and fulfilling relationship in your life. 2 snaps from me, okay? So, First, I created a Facebook group where we can all come together and heal from these cycles of broken relationships. And then I created a self-help therapy e-course with the goal in mind to provide our culture with therapeutic advice on a wide range of topics that, once mastered, will lead to the knowledge needed to restore more lasting and fulfilling relationships within the Black community as a whole. Starting off with addressing the fact that singleness is more important than marriage, because the child that is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth, if you know what I mean. Hurt people hurt people. There are so many things that happen to people that classifies as trauma, and not addressing it causes disruptions in the self and in relationships. Jumping into a marriage before addressing these issues doesn't improve your singleness. It exposes it. So moving from inner work, because we got to address those karmic cycles, to pre-first date preparedness, on to long-lasting relationships. And I get it. Being a Black woman in this world, you got to be strong. You got to hold it all in, and you can't ever let them see you cry. And being a Black man in this world, they tell you that you don't matter if you don't have money. But if you don't remember anything else, I need you to remember that in order to have it all, you have to risk it all. I need some people who's not afraid to say, my past relationships, whether it was familial or intimate, it broke my trust, but it didn't break my strength and my will to try again. You didn't let your guard down. You let your love up. And that's not what the issue was, nor was it you being weak. I need some people who's not afraid of saying, I just may have misinterpreted my significant other's silence as them being mad at me or uninterested in me anymore. And that probably was far from the problem. And I know I hear you saying, but I don't think there is somebody out there who is strong enough for me. I'm someone who has endured a lot. I'm not codependent, but I need reassurance. Listen, go ahead. If you haven't already, and join the Facebook group first, because we building up couples who's going to be able to deal with their things that they're going through and be there for their significant other at the same time. It's time to learn how to be the husband in the friend or the wife in the friend. Your past doesn't matter. Heck, sometimes we have to kiss the wrong man or woman to even know what's right. It's time to be at a place in life where you can love people and do so without raising chaos. It's time to be at a place where you stop killing yourself to find a man that will kill for you, because all you see is what you lacking and not what you packing. Shout out to J. Cole on that one, by the way. And let me break it down so it can forever and consistently be broke. For my couples who are already established, but not sure if that's what you want anymore because the grass looks greener on the other side. If the grass looks greener on the other side, I need you to stop staring, stop comparing, stop complaining, and start watering the grass that you are standing on. I'm telling y'all, I'm coming to heal our entire culture with this one. But you got to come out of your feelings and understand that the root of everything is more than what you can see and even imagine. But I have hope that if you found yourself here, there is something on the inside of you that knows that there is a problem within our culture. A problem so big, yet so inconspicuous that we've overlooked it. Or maybe we've just given up hope that there would ever be a change. Either way, you are here because you have a desire to be a part of a change that'll be the beginning of knocking down that invisible barrier that's holding our culture back from ever truly coming up out of bondage. Now, I know what I'm about to say. Many of you are going to be like, okay, now that's a long shot. But it's not. And later on, you'll find out why. But because of the lack of resources and opportunities and the doomed thought that we will never see lasting and fulfilling relationships again, our culture has given up on building strong family bonds and resorted to what we feel like is protecting ourselves by taking on the mindset of FBs, get money, and hands on my knees shaking on my thought Post me a picture finna make me a profit. And I'm going to leave that on this note. All things are poison, and not one thing is without poison. The dose alone is what makes a thing not poison. So too much of those attitudes and mind states will eventually poison the structure of strong family bonds in our community. We got to restore those strong family bonds that we once knew. And if you don't commit to upholding this purpose together, as God said, it does not just exclusively affect you. The world is so interconnected that your empty spot just gives permission for other relationships to leave their spot unfulfilled too. It's not you versus him or him versus you. It's you two versus the problem. When you two subdue your giant, you teach the rest of the world how to take theirs down too. I promise you, it's not too late. We will see this again. I know there are some men and women out there who deep inside, no matter what they say and or do, wants this type of bond and stability within their households. If that's you, then my self-therapy e-course is going to be right for you, okay? Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty about this course, because I know y'all like, let me break down why taking this self-help course will be beneficial to you. The reason why so many of us are unable to open up to love is that we are carrying deeper wounds that we have yet to address. And whether you believe it or not, healing and having an open heart is essential to allow love to fully flow in our connections, which allows the relationship to unfold in positivity rather than the dreaded emotional roller coaster. You are angry, but not with your significant other or potential partners. So take that anger somewhere, like my course, and finally do something about it. I'm sure you know that going to get individual and/or couples therapy alone is going to cost you up to $200 per session. And it's not a, hey, I'm going to go to a couple sessions and I'll be good quick fix. Most people go to therapy for 6 months to a year, sometimes longer, before seeing true healing take place. That's $4,800 to about $9,600 spent on therapy. I'm providing you with all of the information you need to address your trauma and form healthier relationships in the comfort of your own home and on your own pace without even having to go through that hassle. Still not sure? Let's break this down in terms of a SMART goal. I know this is a new journey for you, and you are probably wondering if you're making the right choice by making this course one of your goals to complete. I totally understand. So let me help you make this a SMART goal that you won't regret making. If your goal is to accomplish lasting and fulfilling relationships and to create strong family bonds, then this course is for you. If you're wondering how you will know that this type of relationship has been accomplished, well, when you have gotten to know yourself by revisiting your inner child and relating your thoughts and behaviors to that inner child and restructure the way your inner child shows up in your relationships, then you're on your way to experiencing a lasting and fulfilling relationship. If you're wondering how you can begin to take the steps to accomplish this goal, then you must know that you need to heal. And without the proper knowledge and guidance, you can't do it on your own. You need to take this course and begin your journey of healing so that it can be achievable. And by now, if you're still wondering if this is really even relevant to your life, take a look around you. Are you really happy, or are you just content? The change starts with you. You deserve to take your power back. I know the biggest question you probably have is, how long will it take me to heal? And in all honesty, while you will never heal 100% due to healing being a never-ending cycle, you'll know that you are making progress, which is what's important, when you begin to notice that you've faced your subconscious traumas, you've reached a point of true self-love, and the relationships around you are no longer a reflection of your trauma. And I break all of these things down over a course of 4 weeks in which you'll have 5 lessons throughout each week and homework to work on. Okay, so maybe you realize this is definitely a SMART goal you need to take action on, but you want to know a little more about what you will learn in this course. Let's take a look at the learning objectives of this course. If before taking this course, you found yourself experiencing the same type of problems in your relationships over and over, then after taking this course, you'll be able to uncover the trauma that is keeping you in these cycles of broken relationships. Or maybe before taking this course, you've come to notice that you've been dating for a materialistic gain instead of a genuine connection. Well, after this course, you'll be able to identify the components of a healthy relationship and begin to date more intentionally. Like most of us, maybe before taking this course, you find yourself in toxic yelling matches aimed at tearing each other down when trying to communicate your feelings. That's definitely not going to contribute to lasting and fulfilling relationships. So after taking this course, you will have mastered healthy conflict resolution and you will improve the communication in your relationship. And lastly, maybe before taking this course, you've noticed that your relationships actually start off pretty fulfilling, but end up not lasting and or leave you being a single parent. Well, guess what? This course is going to teach you how to establish lasting and fulfilling relationships and help you to produce strong family bonds. Let's take a sneak peek at the outline of the course. As you can see, there are 4 modules and a Q&A session. In Module 1, it's time to get to know yourself, but in a way like never before. In Module 2, so you've done the inner work, and now I hear you saying you're ready to date. In Module 3, talk around town is you successfully dated for a while and finally got a chance to hear those wedding bells. Module 4, your dreams have finally come true and you're married. But it's not exactly what you dreamed of. Ooh. And then we will wrap it up with a Q&A so that all of those, what do you mean by, but what ifs can be addressed. Now, upon taking this course, there are some major benefits included. Not only will you have access to my 4-week self-help therapy e-course, but you'll also have access to a community of like-minded individuals looking to be of support to you. You'll have weekly group sessions with me, as well as a bi-monthly one-on-one session with me. And you'll also have access to our private Facebook group where you will receive free therapeutic support and advice from me throughout your journey of healing. Now, I promise you, if you put in the effort, by the end of this course, you'll be saying, I've conquered my demons and learned how to love myself. I know how to date effectively. I know what my marriage should comprise of in order for it to be successful. And if there is an issue, I know how to get my marriage back on track. And most importantly, I hold myself accountable for my relationships. So, I know you're ready to dive into the details about how to access the course. Let's take a look at your options. We have a $50 package, which is the pay-as-you-go option that allows you to purchase individual video lessons as you can afford them. Then we have the one-time flat rate fee of $1,000 that gives you full access to the 4-week course. And if you feel like you need me a little more present throughout this journey, then we have the $1,500 package that includes access to the full 4-week course, plus a weekly one-on-one goal session with me. So again, you have 2 ways that you can access the material in this course. Option 1, pay in full and gain access to the full course alongside the private community. Or option 2, pay as you go, which does not include access to the private community. So now that you've gotten all of the nitty-gritty details about the course, I hope you're excited the way that I am about your future relationships. If you take nothing else away from this, please just remember that when the Black man and the Black woman can sit down and get the healing we all need, our families will become whole again, which will lead to our community becoming whole. And hey, at that point, the world is ours. And remember, strong family bonds will be restored in our culture. And like I said, God willing, I'm coming to heal an entire culture with this one. And I know it may sound crazy, but it's only crazy until it happens. Alrighty now, it's time for you to hit me with the questions because I know that you have them. And for those of you who may be wondering, yes, I have a story too. My story is I am Black. Not only am I Black, but I am a Black mother of 4 children whom are divided amongst 3 different dads, none of which I am in a relationship with. What tore us apart? The lack of knowledge of what love really was and how to push through trying times without episodes of aggression. Tried other relationships too. Guess what? They also failed. I endured through broken relationship after broken relationship, each of which tore apart my self-esteem and my self-worth. Despite rough moments, there was something in me that couldn't give up on love, and I'm not going to let you give up either. If you have any other questions and you're catching the replay, make sure you use the hashtag replay so that I can go back and answer your questions. I hope to see you joining the culture on our journey to heal from these cycles of broken relationships.